She had killed 47 beings across 32 star systems. Not one of them had ever offered her coffee. Her name was Sai. Just Sai. She had abandoned her family name 11 years ago when she took the contract that required her to kill her first target, a corrupt Teshan magistrate who had been selling children into labor contracts. She had told herself it was justice. Her handler had told her it was business. She had decided, eventually, that both things could be true at the same time. She was the best assassin the Shade Collective had ever produced. They did not say this publicly. The Shade Collective did not say anything publicly but internally, in the encrypted files that only the highest level handlers ever accessed. She was listed simply as Asset 1. Not Asset 1 of many. Just Asset 1. The only one that mattered. She had been given the contract 3 weeks ago. Standard format. Encrypted delivery. Biometric confirmation required to open the file. A secondary confirmation required to accept. She had accepted within 6 hours of receiving it, which was fast even for her. Usually she spent at least a day reviewing the details, studying the target, looking for complications. This time, she had not needed to. The target was General Marcus Webb, 63 years old, commander of what remained of Earth's unified military forces after 4 years of war against the Dominion, the same Varek-led empire that had been systematically dismantling human resistance across the outer colonies. Webb had held the line for 4 years through strategies that his enemies described in their own intelligence files as infuriatingly creative. He had fewer ships, fewer soldiers, fewer resources than any commander in modern galactic history who had lasted more than 6 months against the Dominion campaign. He had lasted 4 years. He was the reason humanity was still fighting. He was, therefore, the target. The payment was extraordinary. Enough to retire on, enough to disappear completely, build a new identity on a quiet planet somewhere, never take another contract as long as she lived. She had told herself she wanted that. Retirement, quiet, peace. She was not sure she believed herself anymore. But the contract was accepted, the payment was in escrow, and Sai was very good at finishing what she started. She had spent 3 weeks studying Marcus Webb. This was unusual. Most targets required 3 days of study, a week for the complicated ones. 3 weeks was unprecedented in her career. But Marcus Webb was complicated. Not in the way that made a target dangerous, though he was certainly that. Not in the way that made a target well protected, though he was certainly that too. A rotating security detail of 12. A command ship with layered defensive systems. A personal quarters section that required 4 separate biometric confirmations to enter. He was complicated in a different way, a way she had not encountered before. He was, according to every piece of intelligence she had gathered, exactly what he appeared to be. In 11 years of this work, Sai had learned that everyone had a hidden face. Everyone. The corrupt magistrate who publicly championed justice, the warlord who privately wept for the soldiers he sent to die, the diplomat who negotiated peace while secretly funding both sides. Everyone hid something. Everyone was underneath the public version. Something smaller or darker or more frightened than they showed the world. Marcus Webb hid nothing. He was a soldier who believed in what he was fighting for. He was a commander who knew every one of his soldiers by name and visited the medical bay every day, without exception. He was a man who had been offered 3 separate evacuation opportunities as the war got worse, and had declined all 3 because, as he had reportedly told the officer who delivered the 3rd offer, leaving was not something he was willing to do while his people were still fighting. He ate in the common mess with his crew 3 times a week. He kept a small garden in his quarters, axoplants, somehow, on a warship, because he had read somewhere that growing things helped with long-term stress management, and he had recommended it so many times to his soldiers that he felt obligated to practice what he preached. He had a daughter back on Earth, 24 years old, training to be a doctor. He recorded a message to her every week without fail, even during active combat operations. The messages were always the same length, exactly 12 minutes, and always ended the same way. She had intercepted one. She had told herself it was intelligence gathering. He had said, "Stay curious, Maya. Stay kind. The universe is harder than it should be, but the answer to that has never been to become harder yourself. Be soft where you can, be strong where you must, and know that I am proud of you every single day, regardless of everything else." Sai had deleted the intercept from her files. She did not examine why. She had identified her entry point on day 6, a maintenance access corridor on the ship's lower level, used twice daily by engineering crews, with a 4-minute window between rotations, where it was unmarked. She had identified her exit point on day 19. She had mapped 3 contingency routes on day 20. On day 21, she had the contract fully executable. She had waited 2 more days. She told her handler it was final confirmation checks. It was not final confirmation checks. She did not examine what it was. On day 23, she entered the ship. The maintenance corridor was exactly as mapped. The engineering crew rotation was exactly as timed. The 4-minute window opened, and she moved through it like smoke. All the practice and training and 11 years of this work expressed in the simple efficiency of a body that knew exactly how to be invisible. She reached the internal corridor network. Moved through it. Security checkpoint. She had the override codes, extracted from a Dominion intelligence asset, who had not survived the extraction, but had provided excellent data. The checkpoint opened. She moved through. Webb's personal quarters were on Deck 7. Section C. She had memorized the layout so completely that she could have navigated it blind. She almost did not need to navigate it at all, because when she turned the final corner toward the entrance to his quarters, she found that the door was open. Not unlocked. Open. Standing open, with light spilling out into the corridor and the sound of something she identified after a moment as music, quiet, instrumental, human in origin, drifting out with it. A smell. She identified it from her research files. Coffee, a human beverage, caffeinated, consumed almost universally across human culture for centuries, associated with morning routines and work and comfort and conversation. She stood in the corridor for 3 seconds. 3 seconds was a very long time for her. Then she heard his voice. "Doors open," said General Marcus Webb. "Come in, if you're coming in. The coffee's hot, and I only made enough for 2, so I'd rather not waste it." Sai did not move. "I know you're there," Webb said. Same tone. Completely conversational. "You're very good, but the atmospheric sensors in this section were upgraded last month. They detect body heat at 12 meters. You've been standing in the corridor for about 4 seconds now." A pause. "I've had the door open since you hit the checkpoint. The override code you used was real, by the way. I let it through. I wanted to see what happened next." Sai stood very still. Every protocol she had said, "This is a compromised situation." Every protocol said, "Abort, extract, reassess." She stepped through the door. The quarters were small by command standards. Functional. A desk covered in maps and data tablets. A narrow bed that looked like it was used efficiently rather than comfortably. And in the corner, a collection of plants, actual, living plants, in ectosoil arranged on a set of shelves with small grow lights that somehow managed to make the entire room feel less like a warship and more like somewhere a person actually lived. At the small table near the plants, General Marcus Webb sat with 2 cups of coffee. He was exactly as described in the files. 63, silver-haired, broad, through the shoulders in the way of someone who had been strong when young and maintained it through discipline rather than youth. Lines in his face that mapped a long life of hard decisions. He was looking at her with the kind of calm that was not performed. She had seen performed calm in targets before, the false stillness of someone who was terrified and hiding it. This was not that. He was actually calm. He gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit down," he said. "Please." Sai did not sit down. "I'm not going to reach for anything," Webb said. "No weapons on the table. I don't have a panic button hidden somewhere that I'm waiting to press. This is not a trap, and I have no interest in having you arrested or killed." He paused. "I asked them not to interfere, actually. My security detail, I told them to stand down from this section for the next hour." "Why?" Sai said. It was not quite a question. "Because I've been waiting for this for about 3 weeks, Webb said, "and I wanted to talk to you." Sai stared at him. "I'm an assassin," she said. "I was sent to kill you." "I know," he said. "I've known about the contract for 2.5 weeks. Our intelligence intercepted the commission. We know who hired you. We know the terms." He paused. "We know quite a bit about you, actually." Silence. "Sit down," he said again. "The coffee is genuinely good. I have it imported from a colony station that somehow still manages to grow the beans hydroponically. It seems like an insane use of resources in wartime, and I fully acknowledge that, and I do it anyway, because some things matter for morale, and good coffee is one of them." Sai sat down. She was not sure why. She wrapped both hands around the cup. It was warm. The smell was stronger up close, rich and dark, and somehow both energizing and settling at the same time. She understood, abstractly, why humans were so attached to it. She did not drink it. Webb drank his, set the cup down, looked at her with the same genuine calm. "Asset 1, he said. "That's what they call you. 47 contracts. 11 years. No failures." He tilted his head slightly. "You reviewed my file for 3 weeks. That's twice as long as your longest previous review period. I thought that was interesting. I was being thorough, Sai said. Were you? She said nothing. My intelligence people think you're here to complete the contract, Webb said. They think the 3 weeks was standard preparation, and tonight is the execution. They recommended I leave the ship. He paused. I told them I had a different theory. What theory? Sai said. That someone who spends 3 weeks studying a target and still shows up is either the most professional assassin alive, Webb said, or someone who is looking for a reason to do something other than what they came to do. He met her eyes. I think you're both... The music played quietly in the background. The plants rustled slightly in the recycled air. Outside, somewhere, a war was happening. Fleets were moving. People were dying. The fate of an entire species hung on 1,000 decisions being made in 1,000 places simultaneously. In here, there was coffee and a very strange conversation. You intercepted the contract, Sai said slowly. You know who hired me? You know the terms. You've had 2.5 weeks. She paused. You could have had me taken before I reached the ship. Yes, Webb said. Why didn't you? He was quiet for a moment. Because I've read your file, he said. The real one, not the Shade Collective's version. My intelligence people are very good. He wrapped his hands around his cup. 47 contracts. You know what I noticed? The targets. Sai said nothing. Corrupt officials, war criminals, people who sold civilians, people who profited from suffering, people who were, in the judgment of whoever hired you and in the judgment of, I suspect, yourself, people who needed to be stopped and weren't being stopped through any other available mechanism. He paused. And then, in the last 18 months, the contracts shift. Military targets, political targets, people who are threats to powerful interests rather than people who are hurting civilians. He looked at her steadily. You've been pointed in a different direction than the one you started in. Sai's hands tightened slightly on the cup. What do you want? She said. To talk, Webb said simply. That's all. I want to talk to you. I want to ask you something. He paused. Is that all right? It was such a strange question. In 11 years of this work, no one had ever asked her if something was all right. No handler, no client, no target. Ask, she said. Are you happy? Said General Marcus Webb. Sai stared at him. That's not, she started. I know it's not a normal question, he said. I know it's not what you expected, but I've been sitting here for 3 weeks, knowing you were coming, reading your file, thinking about what I actually wanted to say to you when you arrived, and that's the question I kept coming back to. He tilted his head. Are you happy? Is this the life you would choose if you could choose again? The music played. A plant moved. Sai did not answer for a long time. That question isn't relevant, she said finally. It's the only question that's relevant, Webb said quietly. Everything else, the contract, the payment, the Shade Collective, this war, all of it flows from that question. Because if you're happy, if this is genuinely what you want, then we're having a very short conversation and you're going to do what you came to do, and that's that. He paused. But I don't think you're happy. I think you haven't been happy for a long time. And I think you spent 3 weeks reading my file because some part of you was trying to figure out if there was another way. Sai set the coffee cup down. You're trying to manipulate me, she said. You're trying to appeal to something personal, to make me hesitate. Yes, Webb said. I am. I'm not going to pretend I'm not. I'm trying to give you a reason to make a different choice, because I would very much like to continue living, and also because I think you deserve a different choice. He paused. Both things are true. I'm not going to pretend the self-interest isn't there, but the rest of it is also real. Silence. You have a daughter, Sai said. Maya, Webb said, and something moved across his face. Warm, uncomplicated, completely genuine. She is going to be a doctor. She has been insisting she would be a doctor since she was 7 years old and watched a field medic save her friend's life after an accident. She decided in that moment, and she has never wavered. He smiled. She gets that from her mother. Once Maya decides something, the universe tends to accommodate her rather than argue. Her mother, Sai said. Gone, Webb said. Simply, without drama, 8 years ago. Not the war, before the war. An illness. We had 22 years together, and they were good years. I miss her. A pause. I record messages to Maya every week. 12 minutes. I'm not sure why. Exactly 12 minutes. It just always ends up being 12 minutes. Sai looked at him. I intercepted one, she said. He nodded. I know. I left that one unencrypted on purpose. He met her eyes. I wanted you to hear it. A very long silence. You're very strange, Sai said finally. For a general. I've been told, he said. I was also told, early in my career, that I was too soft for command, that I cared too much about the individual soldiers and not enough about the strategic picture, that I would hesitate when hesitation cost lives. He looked at his coffee. I've hesitated exactly once in 4 years of this war. Once, and that hesitation saved 200 lives, because it gave me 12 extra minutes to find a solution that didn't require sending a ground team into a situation they couldn't survive. He paused. I've found that what people call softness is often just a wider definition of what matters. And what matters? Sai asked. People, Webb said simply. All of them. The ones on my side and the ones on the other side and the ones who aren't on any side and the ones who don't know there's a war happening. People, he looked at her, including you. Sai looked away. This was not how this was supposed to go. She had been in difficult target situations before. She had been made, confronted, talked to. She had a protocol for each scenario. The protocol was simple. Assess, adapt, execute, or abort. She did not have a protocol for being offered coffee, and asked if she was happy. The people who hired me, she said, they will send someone else if I don't complete the contract. I know, Webb said. Someone less careful. Someone who won't spend 3 weeks thinking about it. I know that too, he said. So this conversation doesn't actually solve your problem, she said. No, Webb agreed. It doesn't. My problem has about 17 different solutions in progress right now, none of which depend on what you decide in the next few minutes. He paused. This conversation isn't about my problem. She looked back at him. Then, what is it about, say you, he said. Just you. I read your file and I thought, here is someone who started with a real reason, and somewhere along the way the reason got taken away and replaced with a contract and a payment and a system that pointed her at whatever target was convenient. He met her eyes. I thought that was a waste. I thought that was a person being used, and I wanted to say that to your face. The music had shifted. Something slower now, something that felt, even to Sai who had grown up in a culture where human music was background noise at best, like it was about something. I don't know what I would do, she said, if I walked away. I know, Webb said. That's the hardest part, isn't it? Not the walking away, the what comes after. He wrapped his hands around his cup again. I can't promise you anything specific. I can't offer you a job or a guarantee or a solution. I'm a general in a war I'm not certain we're going to win, trying to keep as many people alive as possible for as long as possible, and hoping that's enough. He paused. What I can tell you is that people who are good at hard things and who still care about something that's rare, that's genuinely rare, and the universe tends to find uses for rare things. Sai looked at the plants. Actual plants on a warship. Growing things, he had said, helped with long-term stress management. She thought about the last time she had grown anything. She could not remember. The Shade Collective will not let me simply walk away, she said. No, Webb agreed. They won't. But the people who commissioned this contract are currently being identified and documented by my intelligence team, and will be facing a very complicated next several weeks, regardless of what happens in this room. And the Shade Collective, from what my people tell me, operates primarily on reputation and fear. An asset who retires voluntarily is a problem for them, but a manageable one. An asset who's publicly revealed to have sat down with the target and had coffee and then walked away. He stopped. Sai looked at him. That's a different kind of problem, she said slowly. That's a story, Webb said. And stories travel. And when the story that travels is that the best assassin in the galaxy walked away from a contract because the target was worth more alive than dead, he left it unfinished. You've thought about this a great deal, Sai said. 3 weeks, he reminded her. She looked at her coffee cup. Still untouched. She picked it up and drank. It was extraordinary. Dark and rich and complicated, and somehow exactly right for 3 a.m. on a warship in the middle of a war. She set the cup down. I have conditions, she said. Something in Webb's expression shifted. Not surprise. Something quieter. Something that might have been relief. Tell me, he said. The Shade Collective's files on active contracts targeting civilian populations. All of them. I know where they're stored, and I know how to access them. If your intelligence team can work with what I provide, those contracts end. Done, Webb said immediately. The people who hired you, killed. I will not do it. I will provide the information. Your people do what they do with it. Understood. And she stopped. And, he said, she looked at the plants. Tell me what kind they are, she said. The plants? Tell me what you know about growing them. Webb looked at her for a moment. Tennis mira. It was a genuine smile, reaching everything, the kind of smile that took 63 years and a lot of hard living to earn. That one is a pothos, he said, pointing. Almost impossible to kill. Start with that one, if you're new to it. That one is a piece. Lily knees in direct light. Tells you when it's thirsty by drooping dramatically. Very communicative. And that one, he pointed to the smallest plant, in the corner, with tiny dark leaves. That one is from a cutting my wife took from her mother's garden 25 years ago. I've kept it alive through 2 deployments and 4 years of war, and I will keep it alive until Maya can take it from me and put it in the home she's going to have someday. Sai looked at the small plant. 25 years, 2 deployments, 4 years of war. Still growing. I'll start with the pothos, she said. Webb nodded. They finished their coffee. Outside the door, a water waited. Systems full of people who did not know that, in a small room on a warship, 2 people who were supposed to be enemies had talked until something shifted. Who did not know that a set one had set a contract aside and a general had kept a promise, and somewhere in that exchange, the shape of the next several months had changed, in ways that would take time to fully understand. Inside the room, for just a little longer, there was music and plants, and the last of the coffee, and 2 people sitting quietly in the specific piece of a decision made. Sai stood to leave. Webb stood with her, walked her to the door, stopped at the threshold. One more question, he said. She looked at him. Your name, he said. Your real name, not the one the collective uses. A long pause. Sai, she said. Just Sai. Just Sai, he repeated. Then, take care of yourself. The universe is harder than it should be. She recognized the words. She had heard them before, in a 12-minute message she was not supposed to intercept. Words meant for a daughter, passed through space. Meaning, I see you. I am proud of you. Be soft, where you can. She had deleted the intercept. She had not deleted the words. You too, General, she said. She walked away down the corridor. Behind her, she heard the door close softly. In her pocket she had a small coating she had not asked for, and he had not explicitly offered. It had been sitting on the edge of the table the entire time. She was not sure when she had picked it up. She was not sure it mattered. Some things you reach for without deciding to. Some things you keep before you understand why. She held it carefully, all the way off the ship, through the maintenance corridor, through the 4-minute window, in the engineering rotation, out into the dark. The stars were very bright. She looked at them for a long time. Then she opened a channel to a number she had never used before, a number that had been in her file for 11 years, untouched, the contact information for an organization that helped people leave the kind of work she had been doing. She had kept the number because she was thorough, because good intelligence meant knowing all your options, even when you didn't think you'd need them. She called Italiano. It rang twice, someone answered. I need to talk to someone, Sai said. I have information about active contracts targeting civilians. And I'm done. She paused. I'm done with this work. A pause on the other end. Can you tell me your name? The voice said. Sai looked at the cutting in her hand. Small, dark-leafed. 25 years old in the original plant, still growing. Passed from hand to hand, through deployments and wars and grief and time. Sashi said, just Sai. And for the first time in 11 years, she meant it as a beginning rather than an ending. We talk about humanity as if it is a quality of species, as if only humans can be humane, as if kindness is a biological trait rather than a choice. But the truth is simpler than that. Humanity is what happens when someone looks at the person in front of them and decides they matter, regardless of what they've done, regardless of what side they're on, regardless of what the situation says they're supposed to do. A general left the door opened and made 2 cups of coffee. An assassin walked through the door and sat down, and the world changed. Not with a fleet, not with a weapon, not with a strategy or a treaty or a declaration, with a question. Are you happy? That's it. That's the whole weapon. The thing that no tactical model accounts for. The thing that 300 years of conquest never learned to defend against. The willingness to look at the person who came to endure and ask how they're doing. To see a person instead of a threat. To offer coffee instead of surrender. We never stop the fighting. Not the strategy. Not the survival. But also not the reaching. Not the asking. Not the cups of coffee at 3 in the morning when the door is open and the plants are growing and somewhere out in the dark, a person who is lost is trying to find a reason to choose differently. We always leave the door open. That's who we are. That's who we have always been.